Okay, so yeah, for this update, I thought it was quite timely to give a quick overview of Green Disk, this thing we've been working on with other people at the SSI, and that just was kind of officially launched and announced. Well, exactly a month ago, I think. I think we did the announcement blog post at the end of June. So I'll mostly talk about that rather than the other things I did this year. I've put some links in the documents, so feel free to check these out in case that's useful. So what's Green Disk? The idea behind Green Disk is to have a certification scheme for computational research. You're probably familiar with other ones like AthensS1 for EDI, or things like MyGreenLab or Leaf for wet lab research, if you also involved in these kind of things. So they are quite popular and quite successful because for researchers, they're quite good as a way to have a roadmap to decide, what to do, when to do it, what's the priority, and have some concrete actions to follow. And they're also popular with things like institutions and funders because they're a great way to have everyone follow the same roadmap rather than trying to assess on a case-by-case basis, how far along are different organizations or different research groups. There was this kind of big gap that there was no sustainability scheme for computational research, as opposed to, wet lab have some things, clinical research has some things like that. And that's what motivated us to create Green Disk. When we worked on that, the idea was we had this kind of 4 principles in mind to really focus, so to decide which criteria to include at each level, so for them to be evidence-based, for the whole scheme to be free and open access, which is seems quite obvious coming from the SSI, but is not quite obvious in this space. Other certification scheme like Leaf, like MyGreenLab, you have to pay to access them. So you have to pay to be able to see the criteria, and you have to pay to be certified as an organization. In some cases, the cost is quite low, but still they're not, and the criteria are not open access. They're hidden behind a paywall. Obviously, for it to be free and open access, there's this idea of community-based, because a lot of great resources are being built. I mean, one example is not related to sustainability, but I'm sure you all have to follow cybersecurity training sessions at your different organizations. And it seems that every single organization has their own cybersecurity training, which seems like a lot of effort, of duplicated efforts that could maybe be avoided. And the idea with Green Disk is to say, okay, well, if you build a great induction material for sustainable computing, well, maybe you can just share that and other people can leverage it. So that's this idea of community-based framework. And then iterative, because there's no point trying to get it perfectly right the first time. So instead, we're just moving through different versions. So we actually, Green Disk took different names and we've been working on it, but it's been going on for almost a couple of years now. In 2023, we went through a pilot. So we run it with almost between 20 and 30 labs, if I remember well. And to give them a chance to feedback information about it. So that went quite well, but then we changed it quite drastically following that. The logo, the brilliant logos on the right that Dennis at the SSI has been doing. These are the 3 certification schemes. So once you get bronze certified, you can have this logo and you can put it on social media, and that's always quite popular with organizations. One of the other particularities of Green Disk is there are two streams, 2 sets of criteria actually. Where does that? Here we are. And there's one set of criteria for central sustainability teams, and there's one set of criteria for individual research groups. And the reason we did that is because there's a lot of actions that actually are better taken centrally, or the information is better collected centrally. So, if everyone is using the same data center, then there's no point every single group collecting the information about the data center, everything. And, if you want to change purchasing strategy, for example, then same thing, it needs to be done centrally. So to avoid duplicated effort, there's a set of criteria for central sustainability team. But then there's what's really important when it comes to sustainability or any kind of cultural change is you need to really empower individual researchers. I mean, it would be interesting to see how many people, for example, feel really empowered by something like AthensS1. I know that although my university has it and my department does it, I don't really feel a direct connection to it. I have no idea what the exact criteria are, except that it's roughly around DDI. And that's because none of the criteria apply to individual researchers. And that's why this set of criteria for research groups that, as a unit, you can really move on and get certified is hoping to address that. Now, the two can be done separately. So you can have, for example, only research groups doing it. They will have to do more work, obviously, because they won't have this central support. Or you can have the central sustainability team doing it. But there's a little bit of flexibility on that. And the reason behind it is what I have on the screen here is, so that everyone can focus on what they're good at and what they can change and avoid duplicated effort. Just mindful of time. In terms of what do we call a research groups and what we call a central team, it's very flexible, and that's on purpose because, organizations are incredibly different. So, in some cases, a group will be just a few people. In some cases, it will actually be several research groups or several groups together because that will apply a little bit better. Or, it could be a group of RSCs, for example. And in some cases, central team will be really the central team at the university. Some cases, it might be the department central team. So there is a lot of flexibility on how to do that. I'll put a link to the criteria page in the chat just after that for people who are interested. But roughly, the bronze is all about inventory. So understanding what kind of compute, what kind of hardware, what kind of storage we have, what is the most demanding pipelines and so on. And then when we move on to silver, then suddenly we start changing things and that's the big impact. So I'll roughly leave it there, really. That's kind of the technicalities. Actually, the slides here, I'm kind of cheating. I'll just put that. The slides here are the information webinar I did a couple of weeks ago. So there's a whole recording made available. So if you're interested, that will be up on the Green Disc page in the coming weeks. Yeah, we've built this kind of community space as well. So I'm just going to promote that to wrap up. To go with it, we haven't actually done a grand announcement because it was all a bit rushed before the summer. So we'll probably do that just after when people are back. But it's a space where people who are either RSC or computational researchers, but also want to be able to learn, ask questions, share information around computing can do it. And that's this ESCS community page. So if you want to check it, same thing. I put the link on the document, and that's kind of an online forum where people can talk about this topic. So I'll finish very briefly with acknowledgements, but really the SSI has been absolutely brilliant in order to have a cross-organization, not to have something that's entirely based in Cambridge, which we wanted to avoid, and also providing the online support and the brilliant design. I still can't get over how pretty the logo and the whole thing is, and that's entirely Dennis. I'm hopeless at that. Yeah, okay, so I'll wrap up just because of time, and we can have some questions, and otherwise just shoot me an email. Thanks.